PC gaming does not include only playing with keyboard and mouse. Sometimes it includes playing with a gamepad, with something not FPS shooters, but there are also professionals with gamepads on FPS shooters as well. So in the games like Witcher or Elden Ring, playing with a gamepad is much more convenient. So, what choice do you have with playing on a gamepad? You have essentially three main options. First will be generic one. Generic gamepad, as for example this one, the gamepad which I have played before I bought myself Xbox and PlayStation 1. They are mostly cheap if we're talking about some generic ones, some more popular ones like the one from Logitech, but there are also some custom versions which will cost even more than a traditional gamepad from Xbox or PlayStation. Of course, there are often very poor build quality, as for example this one, it's all cracky, the triggers are not actuating to its full potential, so for some time it will go. I have played the same Witcher for the first time with only this gamepad and it worked pretty good. From the minuses of this gamepad, it has only USB, micro USB in order to charge it or play it wirelessly. Essentially that's wireless version and the battery is enough for playing something around 5 to 6 hours. After that, you should charge this gamepad. Of course, if you are talking about some generic gamepads, you have two options if we're talking about button layout. This would be PlayStation or Xbox One. As you can see right over here, it has PlayStation type of button layout and it works pretty fine if you'd like this type of layout. But let's talk about the most interesting stuff, and that would be Xbox versus PlayStation gamepads. Essentially, this gamepad was released in order to play on your PlayStation like DualSense PlayStation 5. So Xbox gamepad, it was originally planned to play on PC and on Xbox, since both Xbox and Windows are from Microsoft. If we're talking about the functions, these functions include, for example, vibration, the vibration of this gamepad, which is supported in most games. Also, this gamepad is pretty convenient, as you can see also by the way, this gamepad is from originally Xbox One X for the game of Cyberpunk 2077. And of course, this gamepad is wireless, but it's also available to play via wire, the micro USB, if you would connect it to your PC. But the battery here is pretty good, and of course, the batteries are not included in the box, and it has AA batteries. But right over here from HyperX, I've bought myself an expansion, the battery case, which also includes the charging station for dual gamepads. This gamepad is pretty comfortable in hands, and also, by the way, this gamepad can be used instead of the mouse on your PC, because the right trigger also supports the mouse navigation. It's not pretty convenient, but it's a nice function to have. One of the functions is much lower resistance on the sticks compared to the gamepad from PlayStation. So you need some time to adjust to this gamepad, since you will be moving your camera and moving very fast compared to the gamepad, some generic ones or like this one, or some gamepad from DualSense from PlayStation. Of course, like any other Xbox controller, it has asymmetric sticks layout. In my opinion, this gamepad is meant for bigger hands, because the gamepad is much more bigger compared to the DualSense, because DualSense, in my opinion, is more meant to smaller hands. Of course, this gamepad has much more actuation point compared to the PlayStation 1, so if you are okay with that, it would be okay. Of course, let's not forget about Elite controller from Xbox, which also offers you some triggers on the back of your controller, and also the package is much bigger compared to a usual gamepad, which includes only gamepad, even no charging wire. Of course, it costs $180, it has customizable sticks and trigger resistance, it has built-in wireless charger and built-in battery as well, and of course it feels much more premium compared to the usual gamepad. But of course, let's not forget that, for example, on this gamepad from Cyberpunk 2077, it has rubber right over here, so it is not as slippery as the PlayStation 1. And compared to Elite version of this controller, it has a little bit bigger weight because it's made partially out of metal. Of course, it has rubber pads, or it's the same as in the classical one. But in my personal opinion, if you are not some hardcore FPS player, you do not need these buttons. And of course, let's not forget about the price of $180 for Elite gamepad. In my personal opinion, that's too much if we're talking about gamepad which is meant only for gaming. Talking about the minuses of this gamepad has this glow-up logo of Xbox right over here. And in my personal opinion, it is pretty bad because it distracts you during the game and there is no option in order to switch off this Xbox. At least I haven't found one, but on Elite controller you can turn off this light pretty easily. The DualSense controller comes together in a package with PlayStation 5 of any version of PlayStation 5, and despite of being designed for PlayStation, it also works the same way with PC. You can connect it via Bluetooth or you can connect it wired using USB Type-C, so in my opinion this is much better choice if you have everything USB Type-C. Talking about the functions include the same as in Xbox One. It includes vibration, works the same as Xbox controller, but as a bonus, some supported games like PlayStation exclusives like Horizon, God of War or Spider-Man, it adds you a little bit of 3D vibration if you're playing on a wire. And of course, let's not forget about the RGB zone around the trackpad, so you can customize it in, for example, Steam, so you can choose any color you'd like, but unfortunately this color doesn't interact with the same PlayStation X exclusive games, so the color will be the same, and in my opinion it distracts you not in the same big way as, for example, the light from the Xbox, because it's a white bright light and it shines right to your eyes. And of course RGB is also better than non-RGB. And the killer feature of this gamepad are dynamic triggers. Fortunately, it doesn't work only on PlayStation, it can also work on your PC, and it offers you different types of resistance when you're pressing the trigger. Unfortunately, it works for now only using wire without any third-party software, but the result is pretty amazing and it adds actually to the feeling of the game. So you can act it only using a wire with some software being installed from this gamepad, and straight after that you can play different games like ex-PlayStation exclusives like Horizon Zero Dawn, like God of War, or some other ex-PlayStation exclusives, but fortunately this function also works in some AAA games like The Witcher 3 for example, or Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Of course, this gamepad also has built-in battery. For some people that's a plus, for other people that's a minus. In my opinion, battery is always better than a batteries, because this battery holds pretty good, and since the killer feature of this gamepad like dynamic triggers work via wire, you will not have some problems with some controller being dead after some time. One of the problematic features of this gamepad are the fact that it actually doesn't allow your PC to go in the sleep mode when it is connected via wire. I haven't solved this problem yet, so if you want your PC to go automatically into the sleep mode, you would like to disconnect this gamepad from your PC. Also, another one of the functions is actually the fact that you can connect your headphones, your 3.5mm headphones, to the audio jack of your controller, and this controller is actually shown in your Windows audio output, so it can be connected, but in my opinion Bluetooth headset or 2.4 GHz headset is always better than a simply ridiculous amount of cables running around you. The same as with Xbox, there are also controllers with premium functions, like for example PlayStation DualSense Edge. This controller unfortunately offers only new additional buttons. It costs $200, which is $20 more than Elite controller from Xbox. It has pretty odd design solutions, like for example glossy finish right over here on the gamepad, and it looks maybe nice for some people, but I find it pretty disturbing because it collects fingerprints like simply awful. Also, PlayStation gamepads has the problem of drifting sticks, and on the gamepad DualSense Edge they have solved this problem with a very odd solution of interchangeable these sticks. So if you have some drifting stick, they haven't actually fixed this problem, they simply offer you to buy another stick if your stick is a little bit broken. Of course, one of the downsides of DualSense Edge is essentially the smaller battery inside of the gamepad because of additional functions, so in my opinion DualSense Edge comparing to the Xbox Elite controller is much worse choice, not only because of the price but also because of the functions. And out of the box there are no wireless charger included in the box, so it is also a minus for DualSense Edge. So talking about the overall experience about the gamepads, I find myself playing on DualSense much more often, even in the wired mode. First of all, because of the layout, I find it much comfortable compared to the Xbox controller, because right over here, if you put your fingers on the sticks, you find that one of the sticks, the left one, it has much more power needed in order to navigate, so I find that symmetrical layout is much better. Of course, another thing is a big resistance in stick, so I can navigate my character in game much better because, as I said before, the resistance in Xbox is much lower, so the actuation point and the dead zone in this gamepad is much smaller. Another thing are resistant triggers, because in the game it offers you another level of immersion, so this gamepad has another big function. And of course, let's not forget about the RGB around the trackpad, which you can customize however you'd like, and you can also turn it off if it distracts you. Talking about the Xbox controller and whether I prefer it more before, I have used the gamepad like this for a big time, but I have found out that the fatigue of the left trigger is much bigger after some long period of time in gaming, because this asymmetrical layout actually makes you to use much more power in order to navigate the same character. Another thing which I have found out with the Xbox controller is the bigger altitude for the buttons than the DualSense, like X, Y, A, B, because the actuation right over here, as you can see, is much bigger compared to the DualSense, where when you press the button it is actually pressed much more easily. Of course, it's the question of the preferences, and if we're talking also about the Xbox controller, it's more comfortable for the bigger hands. And as I said before, there is no option in order to turn off this white light of the Xbox, so I have found out it to be another problem. So the same as in any other type of tag, the final choice is yours, but if I have to choose only one controller, in my opinion that would be the perfect choice of the DualSense. But if we're talking about some elite controllers, in that case I would find that Xbox controller, the Xbox Elite controller, to be much better than DualSense Edge. Because of the in-box setup, because of the better materials and more functionality, because on the Xbox controller there are 4 customizable buttons compared to only 2 in Sony solution. So the same as before, the final choice is yours, but I find that the functions of the DualSense is much better compared to the Xbox. And the same as before, that's the story.